Imagine yourself in the rugged mountains of Tibet, where the wind howls like a song of the ancients, and the land is alive with centuries of tradition. Among this sacred landscape, a man was born who would not only become one of Tibet's most renowned physicians but also a symbol of resilience, hope, and the power of the human spirit. That man was Dr. Tenzin Choedrak. More than just a healer, Dr. Choedrak's life was a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern science. His story is one of unimaginable hardship, but also of the triumph of the human will to heal and help others, even in the darkest of times. Dr. Tenzin Choedrak's life is like a story pulled from legend, yet it's entirely real. How many people could survive 2 decades of imprisonment, torture, and deprivation, and still emerge with the passion and strength to continue healing others? How many could blend the spiritual insights of Buddhist medicine with the cold, hard facts of modern science? This is the extraordinary legacy of Dr. Choedrak, a man whose work has left an indelible mark not just on Tibetan medicine but on the global medical community. The early life and medical training of Dr. Tenzin Choedrak, born in 1922, in the highland plateaus of Tibet. Dr. Tenzin Choedrak's life began in a setting rich with both natural beauty and spiritual depth. Imagine being surrounded by towering mountains, where every breeze seems to carry the whispers of ancient wisdom. This was the world in which Choedrak was raised, a world steeped in the traditions of Tibetan Buddhism and holistic medicine. From a young age, Choedrak was destined for greatness, being born into a family with a long history of practicing Tibetan medicine, also known as Soa Rigpa. In Tibetan culture, medicine is not just a career, it's a sacred calling. Tibetan doctors are seen as healers of both body and spirit, trained to view illness through the lens of Buddhist philosophy. This is where Dr. Choedrak's early education began. His schooling was not confined to classrooms or textbooks. Can you picture it? The young Tenzin learning not only from the elders in his family but also from revered teachers who had studied for decades. His training involved both rigorous academic study and spiritual practice. Rooted deeply in the Buddhist concept of interconnectedness, at the heart of Tibetan medicine is the idea that all life, and thus all health, is deeply interconnected. The body, mind, and spirit are not separate entities but part of a larger, complex system that requires balance to maintain health. In this way, Tibetan medicine is not just about curing diseases but about understanding the deeper causes of illness, often emotional or spiritual imbalances that manifest in physical form. The foundational text of Tibetan medicine, known as the Four Tantras, became the backbone of Choedrak's early education. Imagine being a young student, poring over ancient texts, learning about the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space, and how their balance is essential for good health. Tibetan doctors are taught to diagnose not just by looking at the body but by understanding the whole person, their emotions, their spirit, and the energies that flow through them. Dr. Choedrak's training was not just intellectual, it was deeply spiritual. He learned to meditate, to practice mindfulness, and to incorporate Buddhist ethics into his medical practice. Tibetan medicine is infused with compassion, the understanding of human suffering, and the desire to alleviate that suffering. This holistic approach shaped Dr. Choedrak's view of healing, one that would serve him and his patients for the rest of his life. Tibetan medicine, a philosophical and holistic approach. To understand the brilliance of Dr. Choedrak's work, we must delve deeper into the philosophical underpinnings of Tibetan medicine itself. Unlike Western medicine, which tends to focus primarily on the physical body, Tibetan medicine views illness as a complex phenomenon, one that arises from imbalances in both the body and the mind. Isn't it fascinating how this system looks beyond the physical and sees health as a reflection of our emotional and spiritual states? Tibetan medicine revolves around the idea of 3 humors, known as wind, arlung, bile, pa, and phlegm, bad can. These humors are not just bodily fluids but represent different energies in the body that correspond to our mental and emotional states. When these humors are in balance, a person experiences good health. However, when they are out of balance, illness can manifest in various ways, physically, emotionally, or even spiritually. For instance, arlung, or wind, is associated with movement and is closely tied to the nervous system. Too much wind can cause anxiety, nervousness, and restlessness, while too little can lead to sluggishness and depression. Bile, or mkrispa, is linked to heat and digestion. An excess of bile might result in anger or inflammation, while a deficiency could cause coldness or fatigue. Finally, bad can, or phlegm, represents coldness and moisture. When out of balance, it can lead to sluggishness or emotional dullness. Doesn't this approach resonate on a deeper level? How often have we noticed that our physical health is affected by stress, anxiety, or unresolved emotional issues? Tibetan medicine understands this intuitively. The underlying cause of disease, according to this tradition, is ignorance that leads to negative emotions such as anger, attachment, and fear. These emotions disturb the balance of the humors and create the conditions for illness. Dr. Choedrak's early education emphasized diagnosing illness by carefully observing a patient's physical, emotional, and spiritual states. Tibetan doctors are trained to use a variety of diagnostic tools, including pulse reading, urine analysis, and the observation of the patient's behavior and emotional state. However, diagnosis is only the first step. Treatment in Tibetan medicine is holistic, involving not just herbs or physical therapies but also lifestyle changes, meditation, and spiritual practices. One of the key treatments in Tibetan medicine is the use of herbal remedies, many of which are based on centuries-old formulas. These remedies are often tailored to the individual patient, taking into account their unique constitution and the specific imbalances they are experiencing. For example, a patient with an excess of wind might be prescribed warming herbs to help calm the mind and balance the nervous system, while someone with an excess of bile might receive cooling herbs to reduce inflammation and anger. But Tibetan medicine doesn't stop at the body. It also addresses the mind and spirit, often recommending meditation, breathing exercises, and other spiritual practices to help patients achieve balance. Isn't it remarkable how this system recognizes the deep connection between our thoughts, emotions, and physical health? The Chinese invasion and Dr. Choedrak's imprisonment. The story of Dr. Choedrak's life takes a dramatic and harrowing turn in the 1950s when China invaded Tibet. This period was marked by immense turmoil, as the Chinese Communist government sought to suppress Tibetan culture, religion, and intellectual life. Many Tibetan doctors, monks, and intellectuals were imprisoned or executed during this time. And Dr. Choedrak was no exception. In 1959, Dr. Choedrak was captured by Chinese forces during the invasion and was subsequently imprisoned. The conditions he endured during his 22 years of imprisonment were nothing short of horrific. Imagine being confined to a small, dark cell, cut off from the outside world, and subjected to torture and deprivation. For many, such an experience would have been the end, but for Dr. Choedrak, it was a test of his resilience and his deep commitment to his healing mission. Despite the brutal conditions of his imprisonment, Dr. Choedrak never lost hope. Even in the direst circumstances, he continued to practice medicine, using his knowledge to help fellow prisoners. With no access to traditional medical supplies, Dr. Choedrak relied on whatever resources he could find, often using leaves, herbs, and other natural materials found in the prison camp to treat injuries and illnesses. Can you imagine the courage and determination it took to continue healing others, even in the face of such suffering? What sustained Dr. Choedrak during these dark years was his deep Buddhist belief in the power of the mind to overcome physical and mental suffering. Tibetan Buddhism teaches that the mind has the power to transcend the limitations of the body, and Dr. Choedrak's ability to endure such extreme hardship is a testament to this belief. His story serves as a powerful reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the resilience of the mind in the face of unimaginable adversity. Escape to India and serving as the Dalai Lama's physician. When Dr. Choedrak was finally released from imprisonment in 1980, his life took a dramatic turn. Escaping Tibet, he fled to India, where the Tibetan government in exile had been established under the leadership of the 14th Dalai Lama. This moment marked a new chapter in his life, one that would not only restore his freedom but also elevate him to a position of immense significance within the Tibetan community. Upon his arrival in India, Dr. Choedrak was appointed as the personal physician to the Dalai Lama. Can you imagine the weight of that responsibility? Caring for the health of the Dalai Lama was not just a medical duty but a spiritual one as well. In this role, Dr. Choedrak's influence extended beyond the Dalai Lama himself. He became a global ambassador for Tibetan medicine, sharing its ancient wisdom with the world. In Dharamshala, the heart of the Tibetan exile community, Dr. Choedrak began teaching and promoting Tibetan medical knowledge on an international stage. His role as a teacher and healer took on new dimensions as he worked to preserve and expand the tradition of Tibetan medicine, ensuring that its holistic approach would continue to benefit future generations. Bridging Tibetan medicine with modern science, one of Dr. Choedrak's most significant contributions was his ability to bridge the gap between traditional Tibetan medicine and modern Western science. At a time when many viewed traditional and modern medicine as incompatible, Dr. Choedrak saw the potential for integration. Isn't it fascinating how he recognized that both systems had something valuable to offer? Western medicine excels at treating acute conditions, using antibiotics, surgeries, and other techniques to address immediate symptoms. However, Dr. Choedrak understood that while Western medicine could provide quick fixes, Tibetan medicine's holistic approach offered long-term healing by addressing the root causes of illness, particularly emotional and spiritual imbalances. In his practice, Dr. Choedrak often combined both systems of medicine. For example, a patient with a bacterial infection might receive antibiotics to treat the infection itself, but they would also undergo treatments to restore the balance of their humors, receive advice on dietary changes, and be taught meditation techniques to stabilize their emotional state. This combination of Western efficiency and Tibetan balance created a truly integrative approach to healthcare. What's even more remarkable is that Dr. Choedrak wasn't just satisfied with blending the two systems, he was also deeply interested in scientific research. He followed developments in fields like psychoneuroimmunology, which explores the connections between the mind, the immune system, and overall health. Tibetan medicine had long posited that mental states like stress, anxiety, and fear could lead to physical illness, an idea that modern science is just beginning to confirm. Isn't it incredible how ahead of his time he was? Dr. Choedrak's ability to see the value in both Tibetan and Western medicine wasn't just about healthcare, it was about creating a broader understanding of healing. He showed the world that science and spirituality can work together to offer a more comprehensive approach to health, one that honors both the physical and emotional aspects of being human, the balance of body, mind, and spirit. At the core of Dr. Choedrak's philosophy was the belief that true health could only be achieved by balancing the body, mind, and spirit. This holistic worldview, rooted in Buddhist teachings, emphasizes that life is a series of interconnected phenomena, and any disturbance in one aspect will affect the others. Isn't that something we all instinctively understand but often forget in the hustle of modern life? Dr. Choedrak's treatment methods sought to restore this balance in his patients. Whether treating a physical ailment, an emotional trauma, or a spiritual crisis, he always viewed the patient as a whole being. This was in sharp contrast to the more compartmentalized approach of modern medicine, which often treats symptoms in isolation. For Dr. Choedrak, healing was about bringing the entire person back into harmony with themselves and their environment. One of the most powerful aspects of Tibetan medicine is its focus on the mind's ability to influence physical health. Tibetan doctors have long understood that mental clarity and emotional stability are essential for maintaining good health. Dr. Choedrak often prescribed meditation and mindfulness practices to his patients, along with herbal remedies and dietary changes. Isn't it fascinating how he combined the wisdom of the mind with the science of the body? Moreover, Dr. Choedrak's understanding of illness extended beyond the physical body to include karma, the Buddhist law of cause and effect. In this belief system, the accumulation of negative karma from past actions can manifest as illness, and healing sometimes involves not just treating the body but also addressing emotional or moral wrongs from the past. This idea of karma was an integral part of Dr. Choedrak's diagnostic and healing practices. legacy, and global impact. Dr. Tenzin Choedrak's legacy is one that continues to inspire both practitioners of Tibetan medicine and those in the modern medical field. His life's work demonstrated that the insights of traditional, spiritual-based medicine and the scientific rigor of modern healthcare are not mutually exclusive, they can coexist and complement each other. Isn't it amazing how his vision has opened the door for future generations to explore alternative, holistic medical treatments while maintaining respect for both traditions? But Dr. Choedrak's legacy is not just about medicine. It's about resilience, compassion, and the power of the human spirit. His personal story, surviving decades of imprisonment and torture, serves as a reminder that healing is not just about curing the body but about maintaining hope, faith, and compassion in the face of suffering. Dr. Choedrak was more than just a physician. He was a healer of both body and spirit, a man whose unique combination of Tibetan Buddhist medicine and modern science has provided a profound model for integrative medicine. By emphasizing the balance of body, mind, and spirit, he not only healed individuals but also contributed to a broader understanding of health that transcends the limitations of any single medical system. His legacy continues to shape the future of both Tibetan and modern medicine, offering a holistic vision of healing in which compassion, wisdom, and balance play central roles in achieving well-being. How might his story inspire the way we think about health today?